We did Hakir Shema V'Lo Yizmir Yotzer Rabbi Yossi Yom Yotzer, and what was the conclusion we reached? The whole concept of Shema, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
Does Shema mean listen? In the sense of listen, or does it mean understand? And it seems to be that's what Torah. Then we analyzed why would Shema be in the form of a commandment? Because fundamentally Shema is a belief statement. So why would we have to say the belief statement is a here? So we talked about that. Okay. Then we have the next halacha. Oh, so the main idea here, which is remember always the important idea. What's the central? What's the major idea of this halacha? You recall one word? Remember what that was?
Audibility.
That's it. Bingo. But you notice
you don't take credit for that word. It was your word.
I know it's some.
So what's your name again?
Shimon.
Yeah. Shimon.
That's because he's humble.
He's very humble. Yeah.
Because any word in the dictionary I can't take credit for.
It's true.
No, it's not the word. It's the application of that word to this. That's the chiddush. Yeah. Anyway, so the concept of audibility. See, once the audibility, immediately you recall. Well, does Shema have to be audible or not? That's why it's very important always to look for the key word. See, the Mishnah has a central idea, but a halacha really has a key word. Where does it fit? It's really the area of the halacha and so on. Okay, then we have kol v'loi digdeg b'eis yosel. So Rabbi Yossi Yotzo and Rabbi Yehuda Omer Lo Yotzo. So again, we have a machlokes. Yeah. Yeah, so what is this? What are we dealing with here? He wasn't medagdek, he wasn't careful. But it's letters. You know what I'm saying? So what do you guys have to say?
So he wasn't a didactic, meaning...
So you say, well, that's the question. What does he mean? Remember, the rule is you need to you have to learn the Mishnah before we get to it, because if you don't, then you're really learning it first time. So you're not gaining really what you could gain. You need to know the Mishnah before, and then you need to hear what I do, so you can contrast what you did and what I do. And then see what the difference is. If there is a difference or not, what is the difference? What you guys miss? If you don't do that, then you will not appreciate at all what I'm doing, to a certain extent anyway, and you'll miss out. You hear that, Eliezer? Hey, it's the way you learn. I mean, if you guys couldn't learn Mishnahs, okay, it's a whole different story. But you can. Now today, there's so many, so you need to do it yourself. You need to think, and then as you do it, you get better and better and better. You see, without that, it's pointless. I don't know if it's pointless, but it's cheating yourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because the objective here is not for me to teach, it's for you to learn. You know what I'm saying? If you don't do that, your learning process is not going to be very well. Right?
You could do Chazara over the week? Like what?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, you have to knowing the Mishnah before, or else I don't want to teach you guys Mishnahs. For that, you can go to your Yotzai Shir. Actually, which reminds me, I want to dedicate this Shir. Today's my father-in-law's Yotzai. My Shir is Yotzai. So I want to dedicate this Shir, Tzchus, for the Aliyas Neshama of Chaim Mordechai Moshe ben Yoshua Eliezer. Now that I reminded myself. Anyway, okay? So, what is Dikdik Yisrael? What exactly is the case? Remember, Mishnayos is nothing more than a collection of halachas. And every halacha consists of what? What are the
case, conduct, principle.
That's it. Actually, you always should know all 8 of them. What are the 8 items I mean, I'm not saying you have to do it all at one shot, but you gotta know, you're a physical therapist, right? You have to know a certain amount. It's always got to be there in your mind. For instance, you perform a diagnosis, right? How do you do that? Because you have a checklist. You know exactly what you need to look for. Without that checklist, it's hit and miss, it's random. You see, same thing with learning. You need to have this stuff in front of you. You see, it doesn't mean you have to know. You have to know the answers for that. Fine, but if you don't have that checklist, then it's all hit and miss. It's then you're what's called chance. You know what I'm saying? And that checklist, by the way, is what separates the men from the boys. You know what I'm saying? So, case, conduct, what are the cases? Case, the situation, circumstance. Conduct is the din, the behavior. Right? 3.
Principle.
Principle. What's the principle? What is a principle?
The driving concept.
What connects the conduct? Why this conduct is divided?
Oh, that's better said. A principle, the definition of principle simply means an underlying idea. You see, so what if it underlies it? What does the principle say? Of course, it's an underlying idea. That just tells me the definition of a word principle. But what is the principle we're looking at for in halacha? And the answer is, why is this the conduct for this case? You see? In other words, to put it more fancy, what concept governs the conduct in this case? That's a nice way of saying it. Or what determines? That's a very important idea.
Conduct
principle.
is what the halacha tells you to do.
Correct. It's the behavior itself.
The behavior.
Yeah. Case means the
It's a
situation,
concept.
and conduct is, well, what do I do in
You
this
have a
situation?
concept driving the conduct of a principle.
Or there's a principle or a concept that determines the conduct, which is the din, to that case. Therefore, why is that principle so important? Why? What role does a principle play in understanding? You need to understand that. What role if I know the principle, so what? What role does it play in...
First of all, you could apply it.
What?
First of all, you could apply it to other cases.
Good. Maven dova mitech dova, it's called, right? If I know the principle here, right, and if I see another case, and I realize, wait a minute, same principle, so guess what? Therefore, it has the same din. So that's called maven dova mitech dova. That's called generalization. You know what I'm saying? I can generalize the conduct to other cases because the principles are the same. You know what I'm saying? But what is a principle really? What's its function?
I mean, that's a cloud.
It's one word. What is the function of a principle?
Explanation?
Oh, excellent. Explanation, there you are. It is the greatest explanatory statement that you can make on a halacha. Why? You know, I don't mean why derivation-wise. Why is this din connected to that case? You know, so it's an explanatory statement. That's the principle. Very important. In other words, not only is it maybe dova mitech dova, that from the principle you can now see where else this principle, what other situations does this principle exist in, and therefore that would make the same conduct. You know what I'm saying? But it's also the explanation of what's going on here. You see, without that, you're in the dark. You have no idea what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Good. So, case, conduct, principle, what's next?
Derivation.
Who?
Derivation.
No, you skip one.
Condition?
Essential conditions. Yeah. Because in any given case, there are things that who cares? You know? If a red car hit another car, you know, is the driver obligated or not? Now, well, is red, the fact that it was a red car, essential? No, who cares whether it's red or not?
So what's the last essential?
Essential conditions. In the case itself, what are the essential conditions that you need to consider? And that's what determines, you know what I'm saying, the principle. Without that, and then there are non-essential conditions, who cares? It's very important to identify that. Because many times you may look at a case and say, oh, this is important, and meanwhile, you're wrong. Who cares? So that's called essential conditions that are necessary for this conduct to be that case. That's number 4. Number 5.
Derivation.
We come to you. Derivation. What's the derivation of what? How do we know that this is the din or the conduct for this case? How do we know that? Where do we derive it from? Remember that? And that itself has subcategories. I'm afraid to even ask you for the subcategories. Anybody want to venture? What is the subcategory of derivation?
I mean, then I said Rabbanon.
No, don't throw me ideas. Give me an order.
That's tough.
That's tough.
We talk about what are possible derivations?
No, I need the subcategories of the category called derivation, which is one of the items on what you have to know about halacha. Yeah. Author. Who is the author of this halacha? 2. What is the authority? Is it min haTorah, midrabanan, or is it minhag, or chumrah? What's the authority? Author, authority. Now, if the authority is min haTorah, then what's next? If the authority is min haTorah, then
Exegesis.
yeah, I like that. What is the exegetical method employed?
British man.
It's not exegesis, What's the exegesis? Exegesis is a fancy word for it. What's the derivational method?
Article.
Yeah.
Like juxtaposition.
Well, you know what juxtaposition refers to? Smichas.
Yeah.
One of Samach.
Samach, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's fancy word, It's also, you can also use the word adjacent. What halach is adjacent next to?
Can I ask a tangent question because it's something I had a week ago?
Yeah.
And I never quite grasped this, so I'm just going to take the opportunity. When they're arguing if something is a deraisa or a derabanan, how is that an argument either? Like when something is a deraisa, it comes from a pasuk. It's stated straight out. Is that not so?
Yes.
So how can you have a situation where it's a machlokas if it's a deraisa or derabanan? Meaning, if it's a deraisa, either it's there or it's not there.
Who said there was a machlokes for some reason?
Meaning, I'm trying to think of what we exactly. I can't remember like a specific example, but
Most things are known. The question always is, where in the Uraisa is it? Is the place, the location that you learn it out from? But
I was learning Moshe Chaim. I'm gonna give you a specific example, or like I'm not sure if it's a deraisa or a derabanan.
I can't answer you unless I say specific.
Okay, I get it.
Anyway, so what do we have? Author, authority. If the authority is min haTorah, then we have the derivational method or exegetical method, or the method of exegesis, right? 1. Source pasuk. Because every method of derivation always comes from a pasuk. Yes, except one which is called halacha mishmei Sinai. Yes, and how many exegetical methods are there? How many derivation methods are there? 32. Lamed Beis Midas. Right? Rabbi Yosef Glili. And if you want, you can always look, it's fascinating to make a limit out of that. In the end of Brachos, there's a whole section of different, there's all Rabbi Yosef Glili the Braisa, and he goes through all of them. It's fascinating to learn because, look, Chazal are familiar with this. We don't even bother with this, What are the rules of the exegetical methods? What are the rules of Kapachoim, Gzev Shah, Binyanov, Platu Plat, Klal Platu Plat, and so on and so forth, whatever. Okay, then you have source pasuk, you have a derivation method, source pasuk, and then you have tzivui form. Is it naseh, loisaseh, and so on. Lav anitik laseh, and so on. Lav shebachlolas, all kinds that a tzivui can be in different forms. And then, of course, you have the concept of frequency. Well, how many times did her say this halacha? So that's important because then obviously other psukim become superfluous, and they have only limud and so on. Okay, great. If it's midrabanan, then we have what? Again, you have author authority, but if the authority is rabbinical midrabanan, then you have what? What's the form? It's a xero takana. You know what I'm saying? Precipitating event. Why did they make this? Was it an event that occurred? Or was it a svara? You know what I'm saying? Which Bezdin did it? When was that Bezdin? You know what I'm saying? does that rabbinical enactment have a asmachta? Does it have a support in the Torah? See? So there's already 5 things right there and then, and so on. So that's from the bottom. And it's minig, I mean, what, which society, why do I have it in that society, when was it, and so
It's
on.
hard to remember because we don't actually do it, so it's hard to remember that.
No, you can remember you can remember the categories. You don't have to, you're not going to, not now. I'll go over which is of all these categories, which is the most important, which you must do. So this is obviously, it's great to know, but, so you have what? You have case, conduct, principle, essential conditions, derivations, 5, right? That ends analysis. Now we engage in the operation of the mind called synthesis. Yes? Remember, you're always doing 2 things. You're breaking it down and you are building it up or connecting the dots. And we have 3 things in synthesis.
Area?
Who?
Area? How do you call it?
Great. The area or the category.
Yeah.
What category does halacha fit? Then you have location and the structure. Because in the structure you have many areas itself. And then you have variational halachas.
Synthesis is the creation of the actual halacha.
No, synthesis is to connect this halacha to other halachas. You build as opposed to break.
So how am I taking you? Did you have like a couple of because I came in a little late in the game. You had a couple of shiurim on this before.
Yes.
Is there like a written chart?
It's on the It's on the website. It's all there.
The written chart. Is a chart?
Torah thinking.
Who?
TorahThinking.com.
Yeah, it's
Go
all
to the
there.
method
A lot of stuff
category.
there.
Method category. You'll see.
It's all there.
The first ones. You'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all there.
Torah thinking.
Okay, great. So this is what you want to know in any given halacha. Great. Okay, so now remember. And
Was
so,
the 8th one?
What?
What was the 8th?
That was 8, right? 5,
No.
6, 7, 8.
Variations.
Yeah,
Variations, I think.
halacha variations. That's very valuable
Why is that synthesis?
because you're connecting it to other halachas. Anything where you build is synthesis. Where you break down, it's analysis. And it's very important because many times you have halacha. So what happens if you remove one of the conditions? Something happens to the din because you change the principle. You see? So you can actually contrast what's happening. You actually see the flow of what's happening. You can look at 4 halachas, each one varying by some kind of a condition, and all of a sudden you have different dinim. And the question is why? So you get a much better handle on its principle. You see? So especially certain areas really lend themselves to that, like Yevomus, Zika, Vomus, where he's got to marry a sister-in-law, Well, what happens if what happens if he had more than one brother? What happens if he's the only brother? What happens if his brother had more than one wife? What happens if she had a kid and the kid died? These are all variations. So the question is, what happens to the obligation under all these variations? You can actually see what happens to Zika is the obligation. What happens to all of it under all the different types of conditions? You really get a tremendous view of what's going on. Then if you connect them all, it's gewaldig. Okay. So, what's that?
Didn't pronounce letters properly.
Oh, he didn't pronounce letters properly. Give me one word, vocabulary. Give me one word without having to say he didn't pronounce the words correctly.
Shmashmu.
He's what?
Enunciation.
There you are. Enunciate. The problem is enunciation. Or, in other words, for those who have a better vocabulary, not better, but
Pronunciation.
okay, maybe, but enunciate.
Because a different accent could be a different pronunciation.
Yeah,
It's still,
yeah.
it's still medactic.
Another word is articulation. He didn't articulate it correctly, or enunciate it. Enunciate means to say something precisely the way it's written.
He could miss a letter, or he could say something else, another letter.
Oh, so this is which
and so on.
case? Did he miss?
Or he pronounced another letter in place.
What?
Or he pronounced another letter in place of some other
No,
letter.
that's called missing.
Or he ran 2 letters together.
Oh, he ran 2 letters together, like al levavchem. So it ends in a lamed, begins with a lamed. Yes, so it's al. So he should have said al, pronounced the lamed of the first letter, a word, then levavchem. Instead, he said al levavchem. What happened to that? One of the lameds is missing. Even though it's interesting, theoretically, he did say al levavchem because he did mention the lamed. But there are two lameds here, you see? So he pronounced the lamed. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't enunciate clearly, he didn't differentiate the lamed of that word to the lamed of that word. You see?
Now, is the significance that he enunciates to himself, or if someone else were to hear him, that they can...
So that's audibility. Oh, you mean that would be the criteria of enunciation?
Right, let's say if I say alavavchem.
Yeah.
So now, does it matter, let's say...
I hear.
You understand what I'm saying?
What you're really saying, what's the criteria of this halacha? Is it sufficient, where he didn't hear it? What it has to be where somebody else didn't hear it. That's what you're really saying.
Yeah.
That it's criteria, what's called its sufficiency. Well, that's not part of the halacha. That's really an added concept. You know what I'm saying? Pashtus, it means he didn't hear it. Minimally. He didn't hear it. If he didn't hear it, the other guy probably Zicha didn't hear it. Obviously he didn't hear it because he didn't say it. He said, al levavchem. You know what I'm saying? Now, why did the Mishnah... So we're not talking here about... What's a chiddush here? What do you immediately notice in this halacha? What is the halacha about, really? See, what we're now doing is doing what? We want to say, what is the halacha here? Then the question will arise, huh? Not much of a statement, but... What's the halacha in this Mishnah? You guys...
You have to enunciate.
You have to enunciate.
Right.
So, when you think about that, what would you say?
Where you run to what you say to us, but you don't say them clearly, or you even miss out. You say the wrong letter. It's a big issue. Said that if you say the wrong letter, or you miss something out completely, you're still yotzer. And just to say that you're not clear.
I mean, Mishnah is not precise.
Which one is it talking about?
Oh.
No, I'm saying.
No, so the Mishnah, this case is clearly a case where he said the lamed.
Right.
So he didn't leave out a letter technically. He pronounced a letter, so that's the chiddush of this Mishnah. Where it was pronounced, except it wasn't distinct from another lamed. The problem here is not choser, it's distinction.
Nika.
Well, distinction is not distinct. That's the problem.
Separation.
Well, distinction. Distinct.
Separate.
Yes.
I mean, one letter wasn't actually said.
One letter.
Instead of two letters, one letter was said only.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, a lamed was said, so technically a lamed was said.
Yeah, but which one?
Which one? So it's not choser. So that's the chiddush here. That this choser would be so clearly. The Mishnah holds that if it's choser, it's vaday not yotzei. If you're missing, but here you pronounced it, but it's identical to the next letter, so it's like a weaker form of choser. You know what I'm saying? Choser means when you didn't pronounce the letter, right? So technically here you did pronounce the letter, but it's not distinct from this word and that word. So it's a greater chiddush. But it would seem that since this is the halacha, if you miss it, it's clearly no good. You hear about? See, there are different, what's called gradations of the case. Levels. The most obvious with zichel lo yotza is when you skip the letter.
Well, you said the wrong letter.
Well, if you said, that's skipping the letter, so that's chakira. Is it because you skipped the letter? Because it's the wrong letter? Which is it? Probably because you skipped the letter, and so on, So, and so on. So, but they don't argue on that. They say you did pronounce the letter. Problem was that there are two letters that are pronounced the same way, so, it's like, which is it? Because maybe a guy could say, well, obviously, Rabbi Yossi Omer Yotza. Wow. Rabbi Yossi says Yotza. What does Yotza mean?
Mamash missing letter.
Well, that's it. As long as it was pronounced
In an understandable manner.
even though, you know what I'm saying? It was pronounced, it's almost like, it was like a double take. It was the same pronunciation for two different letters. So Rabbi Yossi holds it Yotza, says, hey, he did say it. It's a double pronunciation. He doesn't care. Yeah? So in here, he's Yotza, he's Mekel. And Rabbi Yehuda says lo Yotza. So Rabbi Yehuda says no. Each letter has to have its own distinct enunciation. And Rabbi Yossi says no. As long as it was said, even if it's not distinct. But if it was missing, then apparently Kuli Alma. See, so what we're doing, we're looking at the halacha and we're seeing that the argument is only because it was said, not because it's missing. You know what I'm saying? That's an important distinction.
Why does Rabbi Yossi?
Well, no, exactly, because that's why they use dig.
Dig, which means enunciate.
Right.
Exactly.
But the dictate means they're being very exacting on it.
That's
so
right.
if you didn't pronounce that second letter, so it says, I think the reason why it says it's no good, because you didn't.
According to Rabbi Yehuda.
Right.
Yeah.
According to his opinion, you blew it, you didn't do it.
Well, yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's hoser. In his mind, that's really equivalent to being a hoser. Because you're not miduyak on pronouncing it, so you're choser.
Yeah, so that's fine, good. So
That's why they're using the word diktuk in this particular case instead of saying, "Oh, you missed a letter."
yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's why, because his idea is that the diktuk, meaning that you're being very exacting about it. Okay, so you've got two letters identical, but you have to pronounce each letter, otherwise you're choser.
Yeah, so what you're saying, what are you really saying? What's Rabbi Yehuda really doing? Fine, what you're saying is good. What's Rabbi Yehuda doing?
He's making the idea of the articulation extremely precise.
No, that's what he's saying, but what is he really doing? What's he doing? What's his chidush here?
Like you're saying that a lack of articulation is a lack of a.
Exactly,
You're not
exactly.
Sorry?
He's expanding the concept of choseh.
Oh, yeah, okay, I said that kind of roundabout.
Yeah, but you hear the word. He's expanding the concept. See, what you said, fine, it's good, great. That he's saying it's choseh. So, okay, now what? So he's expanding the concept of choseh. That choseh, not only if you didn't pronounce it,
But wait, where are you saying we're expanding the concept of choseh? We never even talked about choseh.
because the concept, no, it doesn't make a difference.
When do we speak about choseh?
Doesn't make a difference. Because choseh, everybody knows is Yilo Yotza.
Means when you actually miss a letter, yeah?
Yeah, but that's really when you miss a letter. You don't pronounce it, means you missed the letter.
Right,
so
that's
Rabbi
what I'm
Yehuda is
saying.
expanding the concept of choser. That's an important understanding of what Yehuda is doing.
To run-ons.
Who?
To run-ons.
Well, rana, in English it's called a rana, yeah.
So, yeah.
It's like somebody once gave me an example of a run-on. Like some people say Long Island, they're saying Long Island. Long,
Like Island.
yeah. Yeah, run-on. Well, run-on grammatically would mean just go on and on and on and on. There's no period somewhere, you know?
Sheepshed Bay.
Sheep, who?
You're from Brooklyn?
Sheeps. No, but you missed the S.
That's the thing. So me and my wife had that.
No good,
conversation.
That's Jose.
I'm like, wait, it's a sheep shed. No, she's like, no, it's sheep's head.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's sheep shed.
Sheep
Like,
shed.
And we drove by. It was like a sheep's head nursing home.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway,
So
so
you're saying so he's expanding closer to include
correct.
run-ons.
Well, okay, you want to call it run-on, yeah. So you both point out. You both, you hit it, But what's important to know is that that's what he's saying, that it's choser. And therefore, the significance of this is that he's expanding the concept of choser. Interesting. That if you don't say the pronunciation of that letter, I don't care if it was said because it shares, between two letters. No. So choser is not only the letter has to be you have to pronounce it, but you have to pronounce it distinctly from another letter.
Why?
Guys are doing good.
Why could we not say differently that he's not
Yeah, go ahead.
expanding the definition of choseh? He's adding a requirement for articulation.
No.
No, but what's the So you have to ask
So
yourself,
Rabbi Yossi doesn't have such a requirement, as long as it's understandable.
But what's the requirement? What is it?
So he's adding a new requirement that has to be.
How do you call it?
no, but so what is, yeah, but what's the psul? Let's assume lo digib yotzah. So what? Why is it possible? I mean, not possible. Why is it lo yotza? Mitam, what is it lo yotza?
Because he learns it's also a requirement of being articulated.
Is that what it is? No, I'm just saying always because that's called choseh. There you are.
I'm saying which one we could say it two ways.
It's beautiful to say it because it's choseh.
Right.
You know why? Because that's called
Because it's
elegance.
really chosr, because it's not there.
Yeah, that's called elegance. You know what elegance is? Elegance. What elegance means? You know what the word elegant means, but what does elegance mean in thinking?
Like,
Come on, scientists, where are you?
We cannot think about it elegantly.
I like it. It's like finesse. Finesse.
No, I don't want a synonym here. What is
a single idea that explains many
beautiful?
questions.
Exactly.
Answers many questions.
In fact, elegance is such an important feature of truth that science considers elegance almost to be a raya that it's true. That ad kedei kach, because
Right.
scientists look at nature, so to speak, right, and they say, nature's elegant. Like, the classic Einstein's theory, that energy and matter are really the same thing. It's frozen energy is matter. What an elegant theory, because it combines many ideas into one. That's the beauty of elegance. It's an aesthetic idea in concepts. So to say that the chesson of Rabbi Yehuda is choser is elegant. To say that it's a new halacha, you understand?
Why is it
That's
elegant? Why is it elegant?
Because it includes lo digdo b'yoseseo with the same principle of why lo yotza, which means that it's choser.
Two different cases, one principle.
Exactly. There are two different cases, one principle. What are the two cases? Where you never pronounce the
choser,
letter,
this
or you
choser.
pronounce the letter in concert with another letter. Both are mitzat.
Which in essence is that you didn't pronounce a letter.
No, but you did pronounce it, lamet, except it was in concert with another. So the elegance of that is that one principle determines, in other words, one principle determined two halachas, or two halachas share the same principle. I don't care which way you go. That's called elegance. That's nice. What? And you should always strive to think elegantly. There's another word for it in science.
Reduction.
Who?
Reduction.
Who?
Reduction.
Deduction?
No, reduction.
Yes, exactly. You reduce. Scientists realize that it's not that they have, 100 phenomena. No. It's really one that gives rise to 100 different phenomena. That's called reduction. You see, and the same thing. We don't want to have halachas after halachas, each one having their own reason. We want to have many halachas with one reason. It's like a wheel. Then you have the center and you have the spokes, all coming out of the center. That's nice. That's called reductionism. And halacha is beautiful when you can reduce it, because it shows the versatility of a given principle, how versatile it is, how it can be expressed in so many different ways.
It's said so elegantly.
Who?
It was just said so elegantly.
Yeah. It expresses the versatility of a principle. How beautiful it is, It's not principle one on one. No, it's 1 on 10. Wow. What a versatility. Yes, that was elegantly stated. Okay, that's great. Yeah. Okay, what's next? Hakolim Afreya Lo Yotza. Yes? He reads it backwards. Lo Yotza. Everybody admits it's Lo Yotza. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is what?
What does it mean, Mafreya?
Well, we know Lamafreya means backwards, but what's
What units are we talking about?
what units exactly? What units are we talking that he meant in Lamafreya? Is it backwards in terms of
Just
words,
paragraphs or words or
or
letters? or what?
sections.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, letters would be crazy.
You
No,
know,
no, I hear. Or is it words? Well, how many things can you go backwards?
Letters, words.
Well, letters, words,
sentences.
sentences,
and paragraphs.
and sections or paragraphs, yeah. So it's most likely that it refers to
Probably paragraphs. Maybe sentences.
It's
paragraphs.
definitely not letters, because that's
What?
it's definitely not letters. That's
Yeah,
fine.
Nobody holds this way.
or even words.
Right. But
Maybe verses.
Either verses or paragraphs. It's reasonable, most reasonable.
Yeah. So the question then is, so he says, Kol mafre lo yotza, shehekdim es haposek hamaucha. Yeah. So what do we have to say about this?
doesn't sound like that it's paragraphs, because we just
But
had a
about-
discussion about the reason for the
Yeah.
paragraphs, the
Yeah.
order of the paragraphs. It doesn't sound like it's a.
So the question is, it's saying if you go backwards, you're not Yotze. So now the question is it mean if you read the word backwards?
Well,
Or
that
if
would
you
be the
start-
letters. Well, you can either go backwards, either the letters are backwards, or the words are backwards, or the sentences are backwards, or the sections are backwards. So which one does it refer to? There are four possible backwards here.
According to Kahasi, it's talking about the Pasukim are out of order.
Who?
But according to Kahasi, it's
Yeah,
it's talking
the
about the Pasukim are out of order.
Sentences.
Yeah.
Logically,
So therefore,
I would feel that would
if you
make-
read the sections in reverse, then that's fine. Because we learned over here, right, that Loma Kodma, remember this from Rabbi Shubin Kocha? El Kedei Shekabel Ol Malchus Shemayim. You know what I'm saying? So that's really Midrabanan. Torah doesn't, there's no chiyuv min Torah which way to read it in terms of sections or paragraphs. So if you read it out of order, and that's what Lemafreya means. What does Lemafreya really mean? Out of order. Yes? You need to explain the concept of Lemafreya. Lemafreya means out of order. Yes? Okay. So if you read the sections out of order, yes? No good. I mean, okay. If you read the sentences out of order, lo yotza. Kolshkin if you read the letters out of order. Why? Why is that?
I mean, the question why goes on sentences, probably. I mean, on verses.
What is it?
You need to be closer. Because you're not enunciating. You're not saying it. But if you're saying the letters
No.
backwards,
You are enunciating. You're just reading it backward. What? Meaning of what?
The meaning of the text is determined by the order.
What's wrong with the meaning?
I could say if you will not listen to Hashem, you will get lots of rain and good stuff. I've
Yeah.
changed the entire meaning of the text. If I change the sentences, the order of the sentences, I could say,
Yeah, but each sentence in and of itself has a meaning.
but so they also have meaning in context.
if you-
it's not
if
just
you-
text,
no, so if
text
you
and
go
context.
backwards-
You don't mean in context. You mean in
Context.
no. That's not the word.
So it just led your message.
The meaning is
you are
what?
changing that enunciation also.
No, you're not changing it. You're not. You're pronouncing each word correctly. Nay, you're not changing that. That's okay.
No, but the whole
not
section
that
says a
sound.
message beyond the
Said
sentence.
what? What was the word you just used?
Exactly.
Well, I just said if you
You just said
Section.
a word.
Section.
No,
beyond
no. You just said you're changing the whole.
message.
That's it. Message. Each posik in and of itself has a meaning. The problem is that's the message. A message is not just a sentence that has meaning. It is an order of sentences that conveys a specific message. Message is greater than meaning. Although theoretically message is a meaning. You hear the voice? If I talk to you, yes, so each sentence I use has a meaning. But you're not going to get the message. You know what I'm saying? Because the message is lopsided. The concept of message is critical. Everybody got that? It's the concept of message that's the problem here.
No, but each of these sections have a certain idea that it wants to convey.
That's the message.
So if you go out of order, if you have an improper sequence,
Of what? Of the sections? It's fine. it's-
within the section itself, no, because it changes the meaning.
If you reverse The psukim,
That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about.
not sections.
No, I'm talking
You
about
said
pasuk-
sections.
What I'm saying is, if you change the order of the pasukim
Oh.
in the section.
Yes, no good.
I mean, because each section has its own idea.
Yes,
That it
each
wants to convey.
use the word message, not idea. It's a message. Of course,
Okay,
the message.
And
The message is an idea, true.
Okay, right.
But message conveys something
It's
different than
legend,
meaning. It's message is a better word than because it's contrast to meaning. Message, because message is a totality of meanings.
But the idea is if you switch the pasukim
Then-
within that
Section?
within the section of
Yes,
the Torah,
that's right.
you change the whole message, idea, whichever word you prefer.
Okay.
I kind of like the way idea, but okay, message. I understand the idea of message. You change the whole message.
Yes.
So if you change the message, it's obviously not good.
Exactly. That's the underlying what? What's that called?
Underlying principle.
Exactly.
But now we have to figure out the message.
What?
We have to figure out the message now.
Well, yeah, you could do that, of course. What's the message? Yeah, exactly. But the message is not conveyed by the individual pasuk. It's conveyed by a series of psukim. You know. Let me ask something. What's the equivalency in secular studies? What I just said. What's it called?
Sequence.
No. I want you to guess what I just said.
A collection of.
No. You know, it's on a test they give you. They give you a test with a whole paragraph. Then they say, okay, what is it saying? What's that called? What's the name of that test?
Comprehension. Language comprehension.
Reading comprehension. It's really what it is. Do you understand what this paragraph is telling you? That's called reading comprehension. You ever take a test on reading comprehension? A long time ago. Yeah. You know, so that's what they're telling. They don't give you one sentence. They give you the whole paragraph, or rather the whole composition or essay, or whatever section they give you. They say, what does this word mean? Or what does this mean? What are they really asking you for? They're not asking you for the meaning of each sentence. They're asking you, what is the message of the whole section? You see the difference? Got it? You know what I'm saying? That's why the real word here seems to be that if you alter the message by disordering the psukim, bad news. But of course, if you do the words backwards, there's not even a meaning here. Forget about a message. You know, if you read the words backwards, or you read the letters backwards, there's not even a meaning here. You hear the word? You see the difference between a meaning and a message. That's why, you know what I'm saying? So the Chiddush is not only is what? Is a meaning no good, lo yotza, but even a message, the interference of a message is also lo yotza. Whereas a section, you don't necessarily, you have the message, except the message is in the wrong order. Fine, but I have a message at least. No problem. You hear the vote?
I mean, the sections are not even juxtaposed to each other in the Torah.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah. Well,
So each section itself has its own message, and it's not the message.
Yeah.
That the order of the sections between them is not
Yeah.
conveying a message, because in the except what we learn in the Mishnah over here.
Yeah. Actually, they learn it out from a pasuk. Actually, v'hoyu hadvorim ha'ela, and these words shall be. They shall be, and these words shall be. What do you mean shall be? Not shall be. It's going to eventually say them, but shall be in the order that I give it to you. So it's derived. You see, it has a biblical derivation. So maybe the derivation is that maybe we would have thought that as long as there's meaning, even if the message, but clearly to read the letters backwards or the words backwards, no chiddush here, because it's not even a meaning. But the chiddush here is, what about the
Meaning without message.
meaning without message? So the Torah says, no, I need a message, not a meaning. You see what I'm saying? No. What we're doing is really analyzing this whole halacha. We're looking at its case, its conduct, its variations. If you read section back, sentence back, word back, letter back, that's called variations of the halacha. You see its value? You understand what I'm saying? That's really what we're doing here. The eighth idea. You know, we're doing variations of this particular halacha, and we're seeing, okay, and from the variations of that halacha, what we've derived is the concept of no meaning, meaning, if there's no meaning, then it's just jumble. And then we have the concept called meaning, concept of message. You see, we've arrived at different ideas or principles because we've contrasted different variations of different cases of the halacha. Everybody got that? It's a great example. What concept to vary the halacha by changing it and then see what happens. You know what I'm saying? I think that's elegant. If I must say so myself.
Why do we need a derivation from a pasuk for this?
Maybe because, like I just said, maybe because without the Torah, I would say as long as you don't change the meaning.
Message.
No, you can change the message.
So you're right, I just didn't know.
Yeah, so now when there's a Vahoyu Advu Me'ela means even the message you can't change. Maybe. So I say, hey, you're not changing the meaning. I know exactly what the pasuk is saying. But it's not the message. So Torah says, I want the message. This is my speculation. I didn't see it anywhere. In fact, I didn't see any of this anywhere, actually. It's just popping out of my head. Just thinking, that's all it is. Now, once you've thought about this, we're not even using the Mefoshim. Once you've thought about and analyzed, and you see, now you go back into the Mefoshim. You have a field day. Well, what do they say? You see? Then you see, that's great. He says what I say. I understand what he says because you've already dug into it. You're not lazy. The key is don't be lazy. Don't rely on Purushim because you will get lazy. You'll become passive. Work, think, and then go into the Mefoshim to see what they say. You know what I'm saying? Many people don't do that. They need Mefoshim to figure out what's going on. So what happens is they become lazy. It's a tremendous mistake that people make. You know what I'm saying? Daniel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Yitzchak Zev.
Oh, how can I forget that? But they call you Yitzchak Zev or Yitzchak?
Whatever you want.
Whatever.
Not Zev.
Can I call you the Brisker Rav? No.
I'm a Levi.
Yeah, okay. I'm also a Levi. So.
Okay, Shem Shevet, okay.
Okay. Anybody else want to say something? Or have we really broken it down?
Nothing left to say.
No, but you see what you do. You go into the halacha and you say, wait a minute. What should have been said? Well, it should have said choser. Instead he said this, mashma debrei choser. Then we went into the principle of this. Well, why? You know what I'm saying? So we came up with the idea that, hey, it's choser, which would automatically mean extension. He's expanded the concept of choser. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we got that. Then we went into the mafreya. Which case of mafreya? What could possibly be the reason? And if the Torah says this, then what does the Torah machadish to us? You see? So in many ways we've exhausted thinking about all this. And this is only one halacha, two halachas. I mean, it's amazing, What you can do. Okay, great. We're up to Korv Tor. Korv Tor. Yachzan Makom Shetor. So if you had to assign, remember, always assign a key word, which is really the area of this halacha. So the first halacha was called audibility. It's all about audibility. The second halacha, it's all about
Enunciation, articulation.
enunciation. That's it. See, that one word automatically, you see what I'm saying? Automatically you've picked a key word that really, what's called encapsulates what the halacha is about. You know what I'm saying? It's called the title, audibility, enunciation.
Message.
Akur mafreya. What's the halacha about?
Message.
No. What's the word that encapsulates what this halacha is about?
Order.
Who?
Order.
Exactly. Order or sequence. Yeah. Now the principle of that is message and meaning. But what you're doing is you're titling the halachas. So it's much easier to remember. See. So audibility, Enunciation, order. Beautiful. Korah v'Torah, what's that about?
I mean, the question, you have to say it all over from the beginning or from
Is
the...
it translation?
What?
What's the translation of Korah v'Torah?
No, well, what's the halacha?
I mean, he has to go to the place where he left off, where till the place is said correctly. So now he has to continue. So, but, I mean, probably the area probably it's interruptions really, because it was interruption. Because whatever he said incorrectly, it wasn't Shema, it was something else. So probably I would place it into interruptions.
Why is the interruption?
What mistake did he make?
What mistake?
Because he made some mistakes.
So where's the interruption?
So that mistake, it's not Shema really, it's something else. I mean,
No, we're in Shema. Why would it be something else?
Right, but
Interruption is always something which, you can only say interruption is something which is foreign.
So mistake
doing.
makes it foreign, that's why he's not here, he has to repeat it.
That's very hard to say. You can make a mistake, that's not an interruption. When Korah v'Torah, what does it mean? What does Korah v'Torah means?
It's really, you skipped something.
He skipped something. Yes? That's not an interruption. What is this? If you skip something, what have you really done?
But then he started...
Change the meaning.
No. You run into the principle too quick. If you skip something, what have you really done?
You skipped it.
No, the action you've done is you've skipped.
Right.
But what's the problem with skipping?
Same as before, it's order.
Who?
Incomplete.
Same as before, it's
It's
order.
incomplete. There you go. It's closer.
Yeah, it's incomplete.
And you didn't pronounce.
What I would say, if you read and you skip, let's say you made a mistake and so on, then what's the problem? You have failed to do that which is required. Now it begins the question, well, what's the requirement?
The message is not there.
Well, that would be the failure.
The message could be there. You could skip something and the message could still
Yeah,
be there.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. It depends what you skip. Skip a word, skip a sentence, skip a section. But overall, what have you done? You have failed to do the requirement. It's a failure of what needs to be done. That's Torah. Korah, he read the Torah. So he has failed to do what he needs to do, which is to read Kriya Shema correctly. What was the failure consist of? He skipped, or he left out something. So the question is, what does this halacha deal with? So what should it say? Which is interesting. What's the difference in this halacha and every other halacha in terms of conduct? It's interesting, the difference in conduct. Well,
Defining Korah v'Torah, that he skipped a word, that's a failure of saying Shema,
it's a failure of something, yes.
and as opposed to Choser, which would be also a failure of saying
Correct.
Shema.
Exactly, yes.
So why is this so specifically?
Well, you're right, they're all failures. You're right.
This last line is going back on any of the failures listed so far.
Is what?
This last line is going back on any failure that we listed so far.
No, he skipped. And it wasn't out of order, he just skipped something.
If it isn't even that you don't lose, by making a mistake, you don't lose what you've done until then.
Oh,
So that why wouldn't that be with any failure?
so therefore, there's what's the difference between this conduct and the conducts before?
Before it's Yoitza, not Yoitza. Now it's saying what actually to do about it.
Which is called what?
Rectification.
Exactly. Interesting, huh?
What is it?
Before it's the yotza, lo yotza. Now we're not dealing with lo yotza, yotza, we're dealing with remedies. Well, what do? Interesting. It's a different conduct.
Even though if you don't, you're not Yoitza. I mean, taka.
Yeah, which is interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Before remedies, isn't it more basically saying it's the effect of one of these failures? Meaning the effect is that it doesn't
Lo yotza. Yotza, lo
doesn't
yotza.
stop what you did before.
Yeah.
Until that point, you don't lose. You might have thought you lose it all.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to get it all right the first time.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to point out is Yasin al Makim Shador is a remedy. He's not even saying what the conduct is. He didn't say, what do you call it, Korah v'tor lo yotza. However, yachzir l'makom shetor. You see what I'm saying? This is, the conduct here is a remedy as opposed to a, what do you call it, a psak, a status, yeah, or, yeah. It's not a din, it's a remedy.
Yeah, but we also have to see that the conduct of this, it's not an all or nothing idea, it's a cumulative idea.
Yeah, well, I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, because cumulatively, you can, your yotze add to the point that you finish what you were supposed to do. It doesn't, you're not quite, you may not be yotze and completing the Shema yet, but you haven't puzzled it, you haven't invalidated it yet either.
Okay.
So you basically achieved
So what do you...
a zero, you're still at a zero state, you're not yotzian, you haven't been puzzled it, but it's still there. You haven't really touched it. It's still kasher, sort of like kasher valu. It's sort of, you're still there, but you haven't finished it yet.
Yeah,
you haven't disqualified.
You're not at the
either.
point of no return.
Right, you haven't disqualified.
It's not irreversible.
It's correctable.
It's not irreversible.
Right.
So the question you have to ask yourself, Korah v'tor, what tor? What was the tor? Lo digit lo yisrael?
When you're out of luck.
No, lo hishmil yozno, is that the tor?
I mean, it's not clear.
Why
Maybe
not?
yes.
Why not?
Or digit lo yisrael is number 2?
Maybe yes.
Or Korah mafreya number 3? What's the tor?
Why not all three?
But that's interesting. You see? So a Korah v'tor, if it meant all 3, that's why it doesn't say lo yotza, because we already know there's a machlek. We already know the conducts of all these 3. What we're missing here isn't the conduct. What we're missing here is a remedy.
Tikkun.
Yeah, tikkun, exactly. You see, so that would be beautiful. If that's what he's referring to, Korah v'tor, in any one of these 3 aforementioned halachas, why doesn't tell me yotza lo yotza? We just went all through 3 of them. Now what we're interested in knowing is what? Are we talking about something which is irreversible? Or nay? It's rectifiable. Yedavot. I mean, interesting.
Why would you think it's not what would be the sort of say that it's not rectifiable?
You broke the message.
And you have to go all the way back to the beginning because...
Well, that's... well, it depends what. It would be interesting. Maybe that's something to think about.
And what's the chiddush that...
Yeah, why shouldn't it be remediable?
There is
I made a mistake until I got
correctable.
there. Right.
Yeah.
The message has to be wholesome. It has to be one piece. You can't.
No, why can't I repeat it and do the whole message now? Okay, you're right. I fouled up. Means I really did not get my message.
The requirement for being wholesome.
So okay, I'll start again and give you my message. I mean, like, why not? You're like, what's the problem here? What's the chiddush? So there are a couple of things you really have to ask yourself. What does Torah mean? Does Torah refer to the first 3 halachas, and therefore all I need is a remedy, and which will answer very good the question why it doesn't say lo yotza? You see what I'm saying? That would be a great answer why it didn't say lo yotza, because we already know lo yotza, because it's the machlokes, at least in 2 of the cases. Or is Korah v'tor new halacha? He seems to indicate what Kahati says, although you should check it out, that he skips something. It's the chasson isn't audibility, that was fine, and he was medatik in yosis. He pronounced each letter, each word totally, distinctly, I should say, right? And he didn't read it backwards. He skipped. So it seems to be a new halacha.
Then the question is if those previous cases are rectifiable or not.
What?
Then the question is whether those previous cases are rectifiable or not.
Yes, that would be a good
The
question.
question is, the way he's learning, they're not. Because if they're not included in this thing of going back to where you're up to,
So would that
then
mean
you
it's
have to go
not?
back to the beginning, which is again,
Which
why would
is
that be different than skipping?
Why? Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a strange to explain. Like
Yeah. So we have a number of questions based on what does so the first question, does Torah refer to all 3? A.
No, when he
Or
puts
is
on-
Korah a new halacha?
He brings it down to Gemara. He brings down to the Gemara here. That's
Yeah.
really speaking about skipping.
Yeah, skipping, yeah.
It's really the idea of skipping here.
Yeah.
Because the question is, so why, if it is a tikkun for all the 3, then why doesn't it say that explicitly?
It doesn't say that it's a ticket for skipping either explicitly.
No.
It Doesn't say anything explicitly, that's the problem.
It just says that it's Torah, but yeah, it's not specific. But the Gemara is more. But when he brings down the Gemara is speaking about
So we'll
skipping.
speak.
It's not speaking about these other inyanim.
Thanks. So next Sunday night, right? You know.
Where's the champagne?
Yeah, we do something. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a very valid point. You know. So that's the question. Does it refer to all three, or it's a new halacha? Then the question is, if it's new halacha, what's the chiddush? Why can't it go back? And why would it be irreversible, as they say? You know what I'm saying? So those are the things you'd have to work out. How's all that sound? Yeah.
Elegant.
Oh,
In the first part of the Mishnah, it's some mistake.
what's that?
In the first part of the Mishnah, it's some mistake. It's like it's like, or we say almost bemazed. He decided he's reading, Mafra. You don't read Mafra by mistake. Mashen can, when he skipped, it was a mistake. It was Beshoige. So Beshoige, you go back to where you made the mistake.
So you're saying something. What are you saying?
That's not the same. It's not the last part.
So
of the
what
Mishnah,
varies?
that's-
What is varying here? So you're saying something, there's an important distinction between this halacha and all the other previous ones, which
Yeah,
is,
this one you remedy to it because you made a mistake. So you just go back where the mistake was made and you continue. The other place you just mess
So
up.
what-
You messed up the kavanah, so you just.
I don't know, Dik B'Kavana, is that Kavana? He thought
Yeah.
he thought Al Levavchem is okay. He knew he said Al and Levavchem. I don't know if I call that deliberate.
It was not,
You know
no,
what
it
I'm
was
saying?
not medagdek. I mean,
I can understand you're right. Go backwards, it's a little weird. I mean, what are you doing that for? You're right. But I don't know. Lo Hishmili Osman, he didn't know. He thought, a lot of guys say it silently. I don't know if for two halachas, I certainly don't. I would disagree with you. The last one, you're probably right. But I don't know. But what you're really trying to do is
it's still the kavanah.
Oh.
You didn't know, but what you did was the kavanah. You did not know that you're not allowed to
No,
do it
you're-
without listening to it. But you still, when you did without listening, it was the kavanah. You were conscious what we were doing.
Oh yeah, sure.
But by the last case, it was not conscious. It was not conscious, the mistake. The mistake is never conscious.
Which halacha are you
The
talking?
last one, with the call of the Torah, he's not conscious. He just skipped. He doesn't know where he is.
You did not
He was
deliberately skip.
dreaming.
Yeah. He was
the
out of
other
it.
one, he didn't know that he was also to read, but he still did,
Yeah.
the kavanah.
Yeah.
So you know the halacha, that's your problem. But he still, Loish Harazon was still the kavanah. He just, it was not a mistake.
So what are you really trying to do?
He said that he wouldn't
No.
look for rectification. That's why rectification was mentioned.
What are you trying to do really? What are you doing?
No,
In general.
I want to say that the last case is not the same at all as the last case is conscious, and is unconscious, and all the rest is conscious.
Why
If
is
you do
this-
something
why-
consciously, you have to
What
take
he's
the
getting
mark,
at,
basically.
why is this last case different from the other three cases?
Because it was unconscious. It was b'shegeg.
Well, let's take each case. Hishmili Oznai.
No.
Yes?
Yes.
Was it conscious?
He was wrong.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Okay. It was an error.
It was an error because he didn't know the halacha.
Correct. That's called a shogeg. If you do not know
Shogeg is shogeg in the halacha, not in his act.
No.
Here in the act, in the last case, in the act, he was shogeg.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
So what is shogeg? Shogeg is when you're unaware of the halachic significance of something,
Okay.
right? That's shogeg.
Okay.
And what are you referring to? Misasek. When you're not even aware of what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Because he was not aware. It's a concept of awareness, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's assume there's a difference in what. And if you wrap them all together, what are you really referring to? You're saying that the halachic, the conduct difference between these cases depends on what? Give me three words.
Yeah. My English is so poor.
No, I don't do with English. It refers to that you're saying that the variation of these halachas depends on the state of mind.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Got that? That's what you're saying, right? Now, there are 4 states of mind. You know what I'm saying? So the hafchana you're making is nice, but does it really make a difference what the hafchana is? See, there's 2 dinim. You can make a chilik, but is that chilik mechalek? That's what you always have to ask yourself, right? So I like the chilik. You know what I'm saying? Good thinking with the chilik, but does it mechalek? You know what I'm saying? Just because you've created a distinction, does that distinction determine a different din? That is the question. You see what I'm saying? So we need to examine. You know what I'm saying? So the first one where it says lo yishmiya, that's audibility, right? So there clearly is what? Is an ignorance of the halacha, which is shogeg. So we say a machlokes. Yes? The second halacha, dig b'yotzei, it's also shogeg. Because he thought, as long as I'm pronouncing the letter, I'm okay.
More or less, yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's also shogeg. And we still have a machlokes. Yes? The next halacha, the mafreya, he's reading it backwards. Maybe it's a shogeg, maybe he doesn't know the difference. He said, I look at hey, as long as I get it out. I mean, the guy's not stupid. He knows he can't say the letters backwards and the words backwards. I mean, that only an imbecile is going to do that and think it's mean yotzei. You know what I'm saying, you know? But he figured, what's the difference? I'll say, what do you call it, these sentences backwards. I know what the sentence means. You know what I'm saying? So, again, it's a shogeg. Yes? But still there's a machlokes. You know? So, korvator, he skipped. There already is not a shogeg. There you're right. There already is a state of mind. He's not aware. All of a sudden he became distracted for a second and he lost awareness of what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? So he skipped. And there you have a yachzin l'makom shator.
Maybe he did it intentionally. Maybe he did it with kavana.
He skipped kavana.
People like to skip in their tefillas, you know. They just, you know.
No, I didn't do the kavana.
Just kidding.
Also.
So, wait. So let's follow your reasoning.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the last one you really could say is unaware. I mean, he did it because he wasn't cognizant or he wasn't paying attention, which is really the correct way of looking at it. And he just wasn't paying attention to what he read. You know what I'm saying? So we see that there is, you can remedy it. You know what I'm saying? So, was he yotzer, lo yotzer? Probably lo yotzer. Because if it was yotzer, why would we need a remedy?
Yeah.
Elamai, we have to say the halacha before the remedy, that he was not yotze. The only thing is, he can remedy. So now, where do you come in now? Now that we've made a distinction in all of them, all three are the same, the last one is different. Now tell me what you're saying.
There's also another big difference is when lo ishmiya, or when lo digdek, or when I call mafreya, everything from the beginning was wrong. It was not, even part of it is not yotze. Here, until the mistake, unless the first word was a mistake already, the first puzzle, what he did right.
No,
that's why
no, he didn't say no. He was yotze until he got to the word al levavchem. No, he was yotze perfectly. No, it can't be. He was yotze until that mistake, which is lo digdik yourself. Same thing with the Shmuel Esban.
Being lo digdik can't be worse than skipping. Saying the word incorrectly
No, it depends.
can't be worse than not saying it
what
wrong.
lo digdek means. Maybe he doesn't know what lo digdek, or maybe he was not like all over. I'm not sure lo digdek is just one word. Lo digdek is the whole thing. It was all medagdek the way he was reading.
No. The halach is the words that have the same sound, they double up. Al levavchem, he said al levavchem. He didn't
just
distinguish. Maybe there's a couple other examples. There's a few examples, yeah, but no.
Not just in,
So what you're doing is good. Why? Because you're looking for distinctions.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. But you always have to ask yourself, so what? Does this distinction distinguish? That's a tongue twister. That's the question you always have to ask. So what are you trying to really answer with this? Where are you going with this? You've created distinctions. Great. Now what? What does it do for you?
I think we want to understand why he's not lo yotze.
He is lo yotze, or else you wouldn't have remedy.
But there is a remedy.
No. If without the remedy, you're lo yotze.
Yeah, for sure.
So therefore, without the remedy, it's lo yotze.
Yeah.
So then the lo yotze is the exact same thing as all the other lo yotzes. There's a difference, so what? Obviously, the Mishnah doesn't care about the distinctions. You know what I'm saying? Because lo yotze throughout.
But he has a remedy to go back only not to the beginning, but only.
so too with other ones.
Same thing. No. If you were lo digdek b'yisrael, does that mean the whole
I
category
agree.
big
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree to lo digdek.
Yeah. So that's what you have to ask yourself. See, what you're doing is good because you're creating distinctions. You always have to ask yourself, like I said, does the distinction that I see differentiate or distinguish the halachas? Maybe not. A lot of guys do that, it's interesting. They all may come up with these real havchonas. Havchonim means distinctions, And you look at it and says, okay, nice. Now what? You know, it has to determine. A distinction has to be a determinant. It has to truly create different halachas, or rather conducts. You know what I'm saying? But that's good. You see. But the key idea that you're trying to enunciate or enumerate, whatever, is the concept of state of mind. Or was the Yotze until now and then after? You know, when did the Lo Yotze start and so on? Anyway, so that's the question that we have to ask in Korah V'lo Tov. What does it refer to? A, and this is clearly a remedy. Why didn't he say Lo Yotze? And it should have said Lo Yachze. Why doesn't he say Lo Yotze? You know, so clearly there's a difference in the way he expresses himself here than the other way, and so on. You know, that's clearly a difference. So, what's the central idea of this Mishnah? That's what we're up to. We had 4 halachas, yes? What is the central idea of this Mishnah? That is the question. Herr Doctor. He's a doctor.
What are the requirements for the performance of a kriya?
Right on the head. What are the requirements of the performance of the mitzvah? Not the object, which is the text, but the performance, which is what? Recitation, kriya. What are the critical requirements of kriya, recitation, which is the performance of the mitzvah, because you're using the object called text. Exactly. So we have 4 problems here. 4 requirements in performance. 1, it has to be audible. Well, that's a machlokes. 2, right? You have to enunciate each word distinctly is 2. 3, it has to be in the proper sequence. Order is 3. The kriya has to be in the proper order.
It has to be whole.
Well, in the order, because
No, the last one.
Oh, and the last one, it has to be whole. Don't skip. You have to read all of it, not part of it.
Now saying it back the other way.
What?
The last part is going only on skipping.
Well, assuming, yeah. If not, then you cannot. Then the last one is
that's
just
the major difference. That's why the Lashon Mishnah is different in the last one. Because how could you say Lo Yotze if someone who doesn't read the Kriyat Shema is not Yotze, obviously. So you cannot say Lo Yotze. There's nothing to be Yotze or not.
Maybe
He didn't read it. The 3 first, he read the whole thing wrong, but he read the whole thing backwards, whichever way you want to do it. Lo Digdek, Lo Shema, Lo Zeh. The whole thing was done. It is Shema. The last one.
that's a good thought.
So there was no Shema. So what do you mean Yotze? Yotze what? Halo Kare Shema Lo Yotze. Obviously Lo Yotze. You didn't read it.
That's an excellent.
That's why because you have to do the mitzvahs.
That's an excellent thought. All the previous ones, he did the whole thing, except the kriya. There was a defect in the kriya, either audibility, sequence, or audibility, enunciation, or sequence. Yeah, but he read the whole thing. Here he missed. He deleted. He didn't read the whole thing. So what he's saying is that it's obviously the yotze. How could you be yotze if you didn't read the whole thing? You skipped. So if you skipped, how could you possibly be yotze? There can't be a machlokes in that, and it would be obvious that it would be lo yotze. So therefore, it doesn't deal with lo yotze. That's obvious. It has to say there is a remedy. You can go back. Although that also you can ask. Well, it's obvious also. You just go back and do the thing over again. Which also is.
But it comes to what you're saying, that the first 3...
you don't have to go back to the beginning. Probably. Yeah, that's very good. Excellent.
It comes so it's true, you're coming that the first 3 are worse than the last one?
The first 3 is better than the last.
So then, in the first 3...
And it's still machlokes yotze lo yotze. But the last one is obviously yotze.
No, but if you made a mistake, you obviously don't have to go back to the beginning. You could just go back to where you made a mistake.
Well,
it's not as bad. So then, what do you need? So then,
Then what?
You're telling me there's three not so bad cases and one bad case, skipping.
Yeah, this case is the worst.
So why here are you telling me, in the worst case, you're telling me only that here that you could go back to where you...
Mokum Shator, yeah. You don't have to go back
on
to
the
the
other
beginning.
cases you could obviously could. So it is going back on all three cases. You can always go back.
Theoretically, yeah. Yeah. If you could, well, yeah. The other three cases, probably Yachzor L'Mokum Shator. Probably.
Well, if they're less bad, if the mistake is less severe than in the fourth case, so then obviously you can.
If it's less severe, you can.
Because
Go
like
back.
you're saying the story is that you just read it incorrectly.
That's right, yeah. So just read it correctly. That's all. Go back. You know.
So
Or go
the
back
The
in
question
the
is, do you go back to the Makom, or do you have to go back to the beginning?
It would seem that you, well,
Right, if they're not as bad as...
Not,
if they're not as-
not so simple. You,
Why
know,
not?
you,
They're not as
you already
bad.
completed the reading, but you made a defect. Now you have a pugum in the completion.
so that's the
Here you
question.
never even completed it, so it's just saying, go back to where you didn't. You completed up to here, fine. Now complete where you missed off. This one seems to be less bad. Actually, it's probably better.
Which
in a
one?
way.
This?
This one, because it's correctable. The other three may or may not be correctable. We're not sure.
Why? Go back to
Well, it depends on
Worst
the
comes to
process.
worst, go back to the beginning. Worst comes to worst.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, but then that's going back to the beginning. That,
Yeah.
When I mean correctable, you could be corrected within.
In the Mokum Shator,
Right.
yeah. It's hard to know.
You have to see.
Yeah,
the
this-
If you're saying it's true, why say
no,
top?
okay.
We need more information.
So why say top?
But at
Why
least
is it
we've
general
arrived at
term
what we
mistake?
need information about. I don't mind if I need more information, but at least I now know what I need information about to solve the problem.
I want to go back again to what I said. The first three, we're not looking for a remedy. He did something whole. We want to know if he's yoitz or not. He did something. The last
No,
one,
so yeah,
so
that's down low.
could a remedy is a different question. We're looking to know if what he did is good or not. We forget about the remedy.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
The last one, he didn't do nothing. So
Well, that's what you're saying.
that's what I'm saying.
No,
again,
you said that already.
Yeah, so it's possible that those one can be chayzer, but that's not the point of
That-
the Mishnah. The
yeah.
point is that you did something whole. Is it good or is it not good?
Yeah, no, so you said that,
Yeah.
exactly.
The
Yeah.
question of
You're
Yalzo,
repeating
how
yourself,
should
yeah.
we do it? It's a different problem.
Yeah.
Now, on the first halacha of this Mishnah, we're talking about the audibility or tonal volume or whatever. I call it kind of tonal volume. Now, the question is, why? What if you just said it, not with your lips, but you said it in your mind, and you heard it, you know, like the little voice.
That's
you heard.
mental. That's
Huh?
a mental recitation.
Yeah, a mental recitation.
No good. It has to
Why?
Because I think it has to be.
Did
It has to be.
You have to perform it with the lips.
I
at
think
least?
so. Yeah, that's not.
Imam Mipid,
Yeah,
the pasuk meant.
yeah. It can't be a mental kriya.
The next parak says, yeah.
Because a mental kriya is not a kriya. Is that correct?
Well, what the
Somebody who's a Valkyrie.
Oh, you mean the?
Hero believer. So whether that
No,
works.
but you're not. I don't think
But-
you're
but-
a priest. We'll take a look there.
But a
Yeah.
mental,
Valkyrie believer, the Einum Avar.
but mental.
Yeah, but are you yotze?
So why, if you, yeah,
That's the question.
But kriya is an
Divrei
act.
Torah, you yotze, because Torah doesn't need a vocalization.
But kriya is an
Kriya
act.
which needs a kriya. That's the difference. Limud Torah is limud. Limud I can do in my
Yeah,
mind.
you are Yotze because you don't do brachas. If you're not Yotze at all, if your hero is nothing, so then why would you not do brachas?
Because maybe the brachas is only a
Because brachas are only
takona.
Rabbanon, so you don't, and
So
you're
maybe it's only
Valkyrie.
if you do it the right way. We'll have to take a look when we get there.
Well, the
Yeah, that's
idea is that this has to be a verbal. No, this has to be a verbal declaration.
right. Yeah, it has to be verbal.
So if it's a verbal declaration.